Hello, we have a very special treat today. This is the holy grail of game art books. It's The Art of Journey by Matt Nava. For those who don't know, Journey is a PS3 game made by that game company. It had a digital release and then a physical release for the PS3. So this is the physical release of the game. And this game later came digitally to the PS4. It was even given out freely to PS4 owners for a while. So this is the third game in the series of games by that game company. Flow, Flower, and Journey. There was a game before that, but these are the three that were part of their agreement with Sony. Just a brief overview of the manual of the game. I'll go over the manual briefly because it's really about the art book. The game also came out on the Epic Store if you want to play it on your PC. And it even came out on iPads later on, but I do recommend playing this game on console or PC. Do check it out. It's a phenomenal game. Many considered it the game of 2012, and it sold incredibly well as a digital title. So that's the manual there. This is the game, the back of the game. I purchased a recycled copy. My initial one, I lost it, so I lent it to a friend. Anyway, so here's the actual art book. And let's start off. So here's a little bit in the binding, and then if we take a look, this is what the cover actually looks like. So if you find any listings on eBay or Amazon and you're wondering what that is, that's what that looks like. This is a soundtrack code. It's really hard to find this book for anywhere close to MSRP now. I got it for used for what I think is a great deal. I'm just happy to get a copy of this phenomenal book, and part of why I'm making a video here to show it to others who might not know if they want to get this book or don't want to spend so much money on it, because there's not that many copies. There was a reprinting, but it's still incredibly hard to find, and it's just such a lovely book. The art is phenomenal. This is kind of the start of the game here. The sections about characters, different concepts. Some of these you will find in talks, and others are new. I haven't even seen them before looking at this book. There's also a companion app that allows you to see some 3D models in augmented reality. I don't have that one, so if anyone knows how to get the APK file associated with that, I'd love to know. Please leave a comment down below on how I can download it to experience that aspect of the book, because the person I bought this from didn't have the APK for it. It's still lovely to view as is, of course. The progression of the different characters, and settled on this design, and started out really complex. Nava has a whole talk about that on GDC for anyone interested to see that. So these are some of the more complex characters. It's interesting to find out that the character was kind of a ninja inspiration, from my understanding. So this was the most complicated design, and they didn't end up going with that because there were so many limbs and hands, and it was technically challenging. They also ended up removing the hands because otherwise players wanted to climb, and they wanted to make it clear what kind of interactions could exist and couldn't exist. Some lovely sketches here. And the different kinds of colors of the characters. Later you can have a white robe. And then the various stages where the character gets cold, and as their scarf grows, so do the patterns on the robe. It was interesting how they went with a green sky because they wanted to save blue for a particular section in the game. These are the different creatures. They had some technical constraints regarding creatures too. They were experimenting with a wide variety of designs. It's really fascinating just to learn about their process and all that. Of course, if you can buy this book, if it ever gets reprinted again, do so to support the artists and everybody involved. But if you're the only way to get it is on a secondary market, then you might as well just enjoy the art this way. Otherwise, a lot of people don't have access to this book. Like this was the only way I could see and experience it all, is just by buying it on the secondary market. This is the enemy you encounter later on. There's a little bit of spoilers, but imagine most people have already played the game, and if you haven't, you definitely should experience it. It's a short game, only a couple hours, and it's really more of an experience. There's not a lot in terms of gameplay variety, but it's minimalistic and wonderful. They went with a Cyclops design for the face to denote an enemy. This is a lovely section in the game. Sort of a bit of a... Oh, and this was in the very first trailer, this scene here, for landscapes. There's also a lot of interesting conversations regarding the progression of colors throughout the game. So this is kind of them going through the game and the color palettes that they use. This was also a section from the very first trailer. This is a sketch I haven't seen before this book. Hopefully you can stop and read some of the text on these pages. If it's too small to read, let me know and I'll go over it in the comments, I guess. I really enjoy sliding down in the desert in those sequences. Some more interesting sketches here. And a very rough view. They actually did a flash prototype of the game when they were first starting out and exploring the multiplayer concept and having strangers join your game and interact with each other. Personally, the part of the game, this is my favorite section, sliding down here. It's just gorgeous. But what I enjoyed about the game is the solo experience. I had players joining my game. Played the game several times, but for me it didn't add that much to the experience. It really was this journey, and so it didn't really need to be about the multiplayer. And when I played it without the multiplayer, watched a friend play without the multiplayer, the experience was just as great. It's a more somber area, underground, and this is the snowy area. I don't recall these rough peaks. I guess those were work in progress. There's interesting brushstrokes there. And the snowy section later on in the game. This game was so pivotal in that it showed that shorter experiences are possible and can be successful and can be just as impactful. Some people compare this game to a walking simulator, but it's not quite the same because it's a lot more evocative and emotional, and there's actually no explicit story through conversation or text. It's all done through animations. It's really interesting to hear Nava talk about the architecture in the game, because they kind of created their own standards, and so the architecture is definitely inspired by a lot of existing Greek and Japanese architecture, and it's still very unique in how it blends those and creates something only seen in this game. Lovely to see the augmented reality version of this. There's some videos of somebody recording their experience with the augmented reality. I've only seen it in the trailer for this book, but it's very brief. It's not on all the pages, and so if I was able to come across the APK for it, I would do another video going more in detail about that and trying to show that on a device. It's a very dynamic view here. It's interesting to see the scale of this concept character. I believe this character did end up in a prototype of the game, so they were using it for a while there. And this is another nicely rendered. There's so much detail that they put in. When they were trying to explore the different approaches, and there's an interesting story about this section, because when they were designing it, they made it really punishing to fall off of this section initially, and they had to adjust it so that players don't have to walk all the way back up to this broken bridge again. Design for these shrines and sequences corresponding to the meditation, these kinds of dreams. And they talked about how it was awkward if the spirit just flew away, so they tried to do things like having the character enter a trance when they interact with this spirit. And then when they wake up, the spirit's gone. They also had limitations on what they can do with the cutscene, so they had to do these kinds of graphics to reduce the size of these images because of the constraints on the PlayStation 3. But it worked well to resemble hieroglyphs. This is an interesting page. This is try to open it up here to display it a little better. This is kind of the whole cutscene, telling this kind of cryptic story. It's really open to what you make of it. It's always nice. There's nothing on the back here, but there's an image there. It's a nice fold out. Would have been nice to have some more fold outs, but they're quite rare in art books. I've also not seen this page before the book. More on the cutscenes. There's really not a lot of merchandise and things related to Journey other than the physical game, this book, and a very expensive figurine. There's another figurine that I have pre-ordered, but it's been delayed, and when it comes out I'll do a video on that, but beyond that there's really not much else to appreciate Journey. Interesting to see some of the fan art. And they included in the book. They also include messages from fans in their talks, and it's really nice to know that the development team is so connected with their fans. And here's some information about Matt Nava, some acknowledgements, so I'll take a moment to pause here on these pages. scan the cube yet, but I believe this is related to that augmented reality experience. And ends off with that desert and sand. I actually went to a desert to do research on how it would look and how the movement would be like, and they realized that realistic desert movement is not all that exciting, so they opted in for this unnatural sliding that just felt so nice. I'll show the back of the book here. So it's just this, it's a really nice material. It's sort of like cloth-like, hard to describe. A lovely experience, and thank you for watching The Art of Journey.